Hello everybody, this is Lucy Nathanson, child therapist and founder of 𝗵𝗲𝗿𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 2 weeks into Selective Mutism Awareness Month. I hope you're all having a wonderful October Selective Mutism Awareness Month and just having conversations with people about selective mutism, sharing information about selective mutism, sharing videos and all the things that we do this month to raise extra awareness of selective mutism. There's been a lot going on behind the scenes at Confident Children, so yeah, lots has been going on, so I'm excited to share more with you all with time. So here we are on a Saturday, and I want to just have a quick chat with you about an interesting phenomenon. So this came up in our Confident Children team meeting this week. So the team were discussing how a lot of our families that we work with and support say that their child doesn't talk in front of them. So they're not talking, or the child with selective mutism talks more when the parent isn't there. And one of the our therapist raised it, and we all agreed, all as a team, we all said, yeah, well, I've got loads of parents who tell me that. And it's an interesting phenomenon, isn't it? Because this is not something that is really covered in the literature that I've seen anyway, hasn't really been mentioned too much. So I wanted to raise it today and firstly ask you as a parent, is this something that you've come across? Of course, it doesn't apply to all children, but it does happen quite commonly. And so I'm interested to hear whether this is something that you've come across. And I thought we should talk about it today, as it's not often spoken about. So, number one, this is super common. So I would say if your child with selective mutism talks less when you're around, so for example, let's just think of a practical example. Maybe they talk to grandparents, but when you're there, they talk less to grandparents. But grandma says that when you're not around, mum, child is chatting away. And this can be quite confusing, and you might be a bit worried, like, am I doing something to make my child feel uncomfortable? Or am I doing something wrong? Why is this? Or maybe something that we commonly hear from the parents we support is parents say, my child doesn't talk to their teacher in front of me, but my teacher says that when I'm not there, my child talks. Like, what's going on? What's with that? So we do hear this quite commonly. Again, it's not something that applies to every child by no means, but it's something we hear quite a lot and it's not really spoken about. So I just wanted to raise this with you today. Oh, thank you for the like, whoever that was. Please actually comment down below if you're joining me, because I can always see numbers on the screen of who's here, but I never know who's actually joining. So please say hello and tell me where you're joining from in the world today. It's always great to see that. So yeah, so we're talking today about situations where children with selective mutism in some cases talk less when the parent's there. So my first thing I want to say to you is, if this is the case in your child's case, it's nothing personal against you as a parent. That's the first most important thing that I really want to reassure you. Hello Suzanne, joining from Australia, amazing, wow. So number one is, it's nothing personal against you. Please do not think that you have done anything wrong. Please don't take offence, especially if this is something that you've never heard of before and you're like, oh, if my child's talking less when I'm there, that's like, isn't that the opposite to what we hear about selective mutism? Actually, it's pretty common, even though it's not really spoken about. It's actually pretty common. Like, a lot of the families we speak to, as I said in our Confident Children team meeting recently, all the therapists said, oh yeah, I've had lots of parents who've told me that, you know, parent says that child speaks to grandma more when I'm not there. Like, what's going on there? So the first thing I want to just reassure you that this is actually pretty common and it's nothing against you as a parent, okay? That's so important to say. And please don't be offended if that's the case. It's not that you are increasing your child's anxiety or anything like that. So that's the first important point. The next thing that I wanted to say is, okay, so why is this? Why is it that your child is talking in some cases less when you're there? Of course, this is not all the time, but in some specific situations, maybe with grandma, they talk more when you're not there, or maybe with teacher, they talk more when you're not there. I would say, and here I am just hypothesizing. Yeah, I'm just hypothesizing, thinking of different potential reasons. And again, this might not apply to your child, or it might. One of the potential reasons could be that maybe they know that when a parent is there, the parent is going to be focused on them. It's going to be looking at them, and, you know, obviously, it's natural. As a parent, you're focused on your child, you're looking at them. And what we know is that children with selective mutism do not respond well to being in the spotlight. When they are in the spotlight, that is when their anxiety often goes up and they feel uncomfortable. As we know, when the first thing, if you've watched any of my videos, you'll know the first step to helping a child with selective mutism is to create this pressure-free environment where the child feels as though it's no big deal if they don't talk, it's no big deal if they talk, it's just this kind of really relaxed environment, and the spotlight is not on them. However, of course, as a parent, it's so totally normal, natural to be zoned in on your child. So maybe, again, this is just me hypothesizing, maybe when you're there, they feel like they're being watched a bit more. Nothing that you've done wrong, but they feel like mum's there, mum's watching me, you know, mum's, really interested in me, or dad, or whoever it might be, they're really interested in me. So maybe they feel like they're a bit more in the spotlight. So maybe that's why they are talking a bit less when you're there, potentially. Again, just hypothesizing. Another hypothesis is maybe it's because they don't want you to make a big deal out of it. Again, this is nothing that you might have intentionally done wrong or anything like that, but as we know, if you've watched my videos, I talk a lot about if a child does speak for the first time, we shouldn't comment on it in the moment. We should just act like it's totally normal, make no big deal out of it. And maybe in the past, unintentionally, without knowing, you've made a comment about your child talking to grandma. Maybe you've been very proud of them, and therefore they're worried about that happening again. Or if it hasn't happened in the past, maybe you've never made any comments about them talking, but maybe they think, oh, if I talk to my teacher in front of mum, then mum might comment on me, or might make a deal about it. Again, you might never have done this in the past, but just children knowing mums, you know, or knowing, you know, they just think, they might think that maybe it's because maybe they might think that you might comment on it, and it's like as we know, children with selective mutism don't like being drawn attention to, so therefore they it's maybe if they stay quiet, then that's kind of guaranteed no comment, if that makes sense. So maybe that's another kind of risk that they don't want to take, that it'll be commented on it, perhaps. Again, these are just hypotheses. Another hypothesis is maybe before you, as we know, parents sometimes rescue their child. It's a completely natural thing to do. If a child is asked a question, the parent wants to protect their child, and if they know that their child cannot answer, they might jump in and answer for them. This is completely normal and natural response to do. However, we do know that for children with selective mutism, we want to avoid the cycle of rescue. We want to provide opportunities for the child to use their voice at the level that they can right now, rather than rescuing the child and talking for them. So maybe the child has unconsciously learnt that if mum's there or dad's there, they'll rescue me and talk for me, because that's what parents do. They look out for their child. So maybe that's why the child is talking a bit less when you're there, because they have kind of subconsciously learned that my parent will rescue me and talk for me, and it's kind of like a bit of a learnt behaviour, let's say. Maybe not consciously, but maybe that's another reason why they're talking less when you're around, whereas when you're not there, they're not used, obviously they don't have that kind of thought process, so then they're talking a bit more. So those are just some different hypotheses as to why sometimes children with selective mutism might speak less when the parent is there, which is again a bit counterintuitive about what we know about selective mutism, but it is a very it's an interesting topic, and I wanted to just explore this with you today because this is something that hasn't really been spoken about before. So we've got some comments here, just want to run through these. So Marie says, hi from the UK, my son is 12 and sometimes does this, but I think it's too many people, even though it can just be 3 of us. I could be wrong, but that's how he has explained it. Okay, so Marie says in her son's case, it's because if it's lots of people around, then he talks less. Again, that makes sense. Makes perfect sense, because more people means more anxiety, more spotlight, and that might cause the child to be more quiet. You know, it's almost like a bigger audience, let's say. Susan says, yes to all of these, yes to all of these, and also I was answering her so much early on that she would just default to me talking for her. Now that she talks in most situations, there are still occasional times when she isn't able to speak or needs a break, and she'll say, Mum knows, ask her. That's so interesting, Susan, and I suppose that kind of links into the whole like rescuing thing. As a parent, you're kind of like naturally rescued your child, so now your child has learned that she'll just go to that default of you talking for her. Exactly. So she's like, oh, you know, Mum will talk for me, so she's maybe going back to that. And if she needs a break, fair enough. We all need a break sometimes. Sophie says, love your jumper. Thank you so much. Thank you. I love it too. I love colourful clothes. Marie says, also, I totally agree with what you're saying, by the way. Oh, thank you, Marie. Yeah, I mean, again, these are just different ideas, and yeah, it's good to have these conversations. Yeah, and now I want to talk about what we can do in this situation. So, what can we do if the child is talking less when we're around? So, different options. One thing we could potentially do is, if you think it's because your child is uncomfortable, if you think your child is worried that you'll comment on the fact they've spoken, so if you think that they might be not or talking less because they think, oh, Mum's going to make a big deal out of it. Maybe you have in the past, or maybe you haven't, but they just kind of got it in their mind that if I speak, then there might be this big reaction, or she might just, and for a child with selective mutism, they're super sensitive, as we know. So even the tiniest little comment for them, it feels like a big reaction, and it might not be from your perspective. Or maybe just even like looking at them while they're talking to the grandma, for them, that's like, for you, sorry, that's just like, not even anything, but for them, they might feel like they've got a huge audience. Children with selective mutism are very, very sensitive and very hypervigilant, very aware of their surroundings, more so than average. So yeah, just those tiny little things might make them feel like they're in the spotlight. Even for you, it doesn't really feel like you're putting them in the spotlight at all. You're just like looking at them, or, you know, making a small comment afterwards. So if you feel as though your child is talking less because they're worried about you making a comment or giving them extra attention when they're doing so, then maybe what you could do is have a chat with them and say, do you know what, Grandma says that you were telling her, I wouldn't say you're talking a lot, but I would say you're telling her about this and that and that. I'm sure she's really, happy to hear about those things. And you know what? When I'm there, if you tell Grandma things, then I promise you that I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. I'm just going to act completely normally. I'm not going to, stare at you or look at you too much. I'll just let you get on with it with Grandma. Or I'm not even going to say, or you can even ask your child, depending on their age, you can even ask them, like, would you rather if I just don't say anything if you're talking to Grandma, or, I can just act like I can just ignore it even. So depending on your child's age, sometimes asking them how they want you to act is an option. Or if you know that they are uncomfortable with it, with comments, it might just be you reassuring them, I'm not going to make any comments, I'm not going to make a fuss, I'm just going to act like it's totally, like, I'm just going to act normal. So that could be one thing that you could potentially do, is to, if you feel as though your child is worried about comments or reactions or any spotlight, you could maybe just reassure your child that you won't be doing those things. And it might not be that one conversation like that will kind of make them comfortable enough to start talking freely in front of you to their grandma or whoever it is, but it's a step in the right direction. And they obviously need that kind of evidence when they're with grandma and you are just there, just ignoring the fact they're speaking. And once they build up that evidence, then they'll start to feel more comfortable. So that's one thing you could do, is like have a little pep talk with them, I suppose, and just to reassure them. What else could you do? I know this sounds a bit crazy because your child does talk to you, but what we could do is almost you slide in while your child is talking to the person who they talk more to when you're not there. So for example, you're at grandma's house. I'm just using grandma as an example just because it's a simple example, but this applies to anyone. But let's say you're at grandma's house and you almost want to do the sliding in technique. So you leave the room and maybe grandma can just be interacting with them and getting them chatty to grandma with you out of the space. And once your child is chatting away to grandma, what we're doing here is we're gradually desensitizing your child to using their voice with you there. But we don't want to throw them in the deep end of the pool, of course not. So we're not having you just come in and join in immediately, but instead maybe you're out of the room first, then maybe you're kind of in the background at a distance, maybe sorting something out on the shelf. You're not looking at your child, you're not interacting with them and grandma, you're just in the background, minding your own business, doing your own thing, tidying something on the shelf. And the point here is that your child is having the experience of carrying on talking to the person they are talking to with you at distance, and they're collecting the evidence that, mum's over there or dad's over there and they're not paying attention to me. I'm carrying on talking to this person. Nothing bad's happening. No one's making any comments about it. It's just normal. And remember, you know, children with SM often have this invisible border where, you know, they're comfortable with you at this distance, but if you come here or if someone comes here, then it's too close. So you want to start far away, you know, so they get really comfortable with you far, far away. And then once they're okay there, then maybe you come a little bit closer. You're still kind of ignoring them. You're doing, you know, tidying this shelf now. Your house is going to be very tidy. Tidying this shelf, sorting out some papers or whatever over there. And then gradually like sliding in essentially so that your child starts to get desensitized to continuing to talk to that person with you gradually edging closer over time. So that's something that you can do to help your child to continue to be able to talk to those people with you around. And of course, we never want to make, and I suppose this can be construed from everything I've been saying, but we don't want to make a big fuss or make any comments to your child about the fact that they've spoken. As a kind of rule, but again, every child is different. So it's always good to, if you can, talk to someone specialised in selective mutism to kind of tailor all of this I'm saying to you to your specific child, because these are all hypothetical examples, different ideas, but every single child with selective mutism is so unique, and it's so important to just apply and tailor strategies to your unique child. So if you can speak to somebody who is kind of understands selective mutism, that can always help to know what you should take from all of this. Right, so I'll just have a look at some of the comments. Sorry, my phone is being a bit crazy here, jumping around, not very helpful. Coralie's asking about visuals. You know, visuals like passes and like, you know, it depends if it's a step forward or a step back for a specific child. So again, it depends on the child, on the circumstance. It should all be tailored. But the general kind of rule of thumb is that if it's a step forward, if your child is unable to communicate their needs, and with this visual tool they can communicate their needs, then absolutely it's a good idea. If they're able to communicate their needs verbally in an adapted way, for example, on the side of the classroom, one-on-one with the TA, then using the visual as a step back, then I wouldn't use a visual. But if it's a step forward and it will help them communicate their needs, then definitely. Sophie says, my son never speaks at school. He's in year 3 now. This week is some videos of himself reading, send them to the teacher. Wow, that is incredible. That's amazing. That's huge progress. Amazing. Bernie says, sometimes I find if I divert my attention somewhere, it seems to help. Looking anywhere else, that's fantastic. That's what we're getting at, exactly. Yeah, we kind of divert your attention, and that can really help your child with selective mutism to carry on talking. And Marie says, oh, sorry, I'm kind of jumped here a bit. It doesn't like doing. Yes, great. Thank you, Stacey. Yeah, writing a note is also a nice step in the right direction. Amazing. Thank you for all of your comments. I'm just reading through. So I hope this chat on this Saturday has been useful for you all. It's always lovely to jump on live and see and speak to you all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for following Confident Children. Remember, it is Selective Mutism Awareness Month. Oh, thank you for the hearts. It's really, I felt that. It is Selective Mutism Awareness Month. So please share all of our posts throughout this month and beyond, of course, but especially for October Awareness Month, because there is a competition at the end of the month and you will be put into a draw to win one of my books. Oh, so yeah, share so you have a chance to go into that competition draw. And yeah, like, love, because that's the other thing. When the algorithms of Facebook work, the more people like, love, comment on posts, the more that the posts are shown to more people. So that helps to just spread awareness when people interact with the posts. It means the posts are shown to more people and awareness is spread even further. So thank you. I appreciate every single person who likes, loves, comments on all the posts. Even if it's just an emoji or something, it just spreads. It means that the post is shown to more people. And remember, if you do want further support with your child with selective mutism, you know where we are, confidentchildren.co.uk. Send us a message, and we've got a lovely team of therapists who are able to have a session with you to talk through your child's selective mutism and give you individualized advice. So you can, bring all your questions to them and they can really understand your child's unique situation. Because of course, my videos, I need to be quite broad and general so they apply to lots of people, but it's about kind of finding what works for your child. So if you would like to talk through your child's situation with a specialist in selective mutism, and by the way, all of my therapists have been trained by me, and I work very, very closely with all of the therapists. We talk every single day. And so yeah, just drop us a message and we'll be more than happy to help you further. So Sophie just asked, how would my son get diagnosed ASD with his SM? So we don't do autism diagnosis, but we do selective mutism diagnoses. So if your child doesn't have a selective mutism diagnosis, again, send us a message through the website asking for a diagnosis and we can arrange that for you very quickly. I think our slots have been taken for October, but we do have slots for November. So we can offer diagnosis for selective mutism, but we don't offer, we don't do diagnosis for autism, but we do for selective mutism. Remember, a child can have a diagnosis, a dual diagnosis of selective mutism and autism. That's very, very possible. Many children do. But we would do the selective mutism element of that. Okay. Oh, you're asking about, you'd have to speak to the autism assessor to find out how they would do the autism assessment to adapt it to his needs. Okay, thank you so much for joining, everyone. Really lovely to see you all. Remember, please like, love, share, comment, even if it's just an emoji, on our posts throughout October. That's how we are spreading awareness, reaching more people, so more people find out about how to help and support children with selective mutism. Thank you for being here, everyone, and have a lovely, lovely rest of the weekend. Oh, remember to subscribe to the website if you haven't already, because there is an email going out tomorrow morning. I'm sending out an email every Sunday in October. So if you're not yet a subscriber, go onto the website confidentchildren.co.uk. Top it says subscribe to newsletter, and you can subscribe there. And then we send intermittent emails with information about selective mutism. And if you are already subscribed but you haven't had the email, check your junk mail, please, and mark us as not junk, because we are definitely not junk or spam. All right, have a lovely rest of the weekend, everyone. Take care, and speak to you soon. Bye.